Thank you, Can Corla. I think there's a danger that the debate is drifting off in a direction in which it was never intended. First of all, in the second reading of a bill, one can suggest what should be in the bill, one can complain about what isn't in the bill, and one can announce what one intends to do at a later stage, at committee stage. But we've gone past that now. And we're now in a situation which I've never seen before, whereby it has been suggested in an acrimonious way that the Minister didn't keep his word. That's not true. One of the first things the committee did, and we sat for 3 months, was to eliminate the disability area from being a reason for accessing abortion. That was the very first thing the committee did. And there was no dissent. Everybody agreed to it. And there were various reasons, for the reasons already put forward by my colleague across the House. And it wouldn't be right. And I, for one, gave an interview to a well-known journal at least 20 years ago and held the same view. And I believe the reasons are still good for that. The suggestion that, because it's not in the bill specifically, that it is by default going to be in the bill, that's not true. And people shouldn't be saying things like that. It is totally and absolutely untrue. Because the bill is in line with what was committed to the public in the heads of a bill that were published before the referendum. And that still stands. And in actual fact, we could be accused, and the Minister could be accused, if we didn't follow that line, we could be accused of not remaining true to our word. So the other thing that we took out of the legislation of the bill, of the proposal at that time, was the ability to seek an abortion on social or economic grounds. And we took that out without any question, because they were not the grounds that should be considered, we felt. It was way, way too frivolous and so on. But there's one thing I want to mention again here. And I come of a family that had losses, many losses, when my siblings were very young. So I would have first-hand knowledge of the little boxes that some of the witnesses told us about when we heard the evidence this time last year. And far from being as being portrayed, that women are callous and cold-blooded and sought an abortion as if it were for their own satisfaction. In fact, the reverse was the case. In every single case, including the ones of fetal abnormality, where the women went out of their way, the pregnant woman went out of her way to have her baby. And it wasn't to be. And there was a disappointment because it wasn't going to happen. And from being announcing to their friends their pregnancy in the first instance, it suddenly was an appalling disappointment. But they still wanted that baby to be born. And they wanted even to have a funeral for the baby, a decent funeral, because it was theirs. And what really takes me to the fair at this stage, when I hear the regurgitation of what we spent 3 months listening to, and listening to the reports of the people who were directly involved at the coalface, that we are suggesting that they were cold and that they were callous. The maternal bond, everybody here had a mother. Everybody, well, implicit in what's being said. Implicit in what's being said. Everybody here had a mother. Please. Everybody here has siblings, sisters, so on. And there's no use trying to get away from this. We either face up to reality or we don't. There were some particular circumstances where a young woman found herself in a desperate situation with nowhere to go. No help from any quarter. The only place to go was across the water, or leave the country, or disappear to what once were the Magdalen laundries or the mother and baby homes. It's time we grew up a little bit. It's time we learned that women had lives as well, and that they are entitled to due and fair consideration, and that they don't find themselves at this time in the 21st century, isolated and alone and forlorn. So I take it, you know, we were there for 3 months. We listened in great detail. We were there all of the time. We missed none of the debate. We didn't read about it afterwards. We got it firsthand. I would compliment my colleagues, some of whom I didn't always agree with. But we did what we had to do, what we were obliged to do, to take our responsibilities seriously and to recognise that there was something there that needed to be dealt with. And the people responded. The people responded. And they made it quite clear. And I want to finish on this one. Yes, last night it was suggested here that minorities have rights. Yes, they do. And so do majorities. And the one has to be balanced against the other. And that's democracy. That's the way it's always been. But we shouldn't exclude a group of people, representative of 52% of the population, whether we like it or not, women, and say, well, in the future, as in the past, you're not really a first-class citizen, you're not equal because you don't control your own future. And I leave people with this. Let's assume that one puts oneself in the shoes of a woman in those circumstances. And I'm sorry, I'm hoarse. I can't call her. And they found themselves, as women have done before, in a hospital situation, when a crisis arises, and everybody stands around. What have we the right to do? Where do we go? Have we any rights at all? And has this woman any rights? Or have they been set aside for some future discussion in court or at an inquest or whatever the case may be? And I would plead with the members who are regurgitating what went on before the referendum and in the course of the referendum. This is a serious issue. We were given responsibility. We should stand up to that responsibility now, carry that responsibility, and recognise that we have a job to do and do it.
Thank you, Deputy.